The night my father threw me out, the air was dry and heavy, like the world itself was holding its breath. I was only 7 years old, too small to understand the weight of what was happening, yet old enough to feel the sharp edge of rejection cutting deep into my chest. I remember standing at the doorway of our small mud house, my tiny hands shaking, my eyes wide with confusion. "Leave," he said. Just one word. No explanation. No hesitation. Before I could even ask why, his hand pushed me back. I stumbled onto the dusty ground, my bare feet scraping against stones. The door slammed shut in front of me, and that sound echoed louder than anything I had ever heard in my life. I knocked at first. Softly. Then harder. "Baba, please," I cried, my voice cracking under the weight of fear. "I'll be good. I promise." But there was no answer. Only silence. That was the moment I realized something no child should ever have to understand. I was alone. The village looked different that night. The same narrow paths I used to run through during the day now felt like endless, dangerous roads. Shadows stretched longer. Every sound felt like a threat. Dogs barked in the distance, and I flinched at each one. Hunger slowly crept in, but fear was stronger. I walked without knowing where I was going, my small body trembling, until I reached the marketplace. It was empty, abandoned after a long day of trade. I curled up under a broken wooden stall, pulling my torn cloth around me, trying to make it feel like home. But it wasn't. That night, I didn't sleep. I just cried quietly until my tears ran out. Morning didn't bring comfort. It brought reality. I woke up to the noise of people setting up their stalls. Some looked at me with curiosity. Others looked away. A few shouted at me to move, as if I were nothing more than trash lying in their path. I learned quickly that the world had no time for a lost child. Hunger became my constant companion. At first, I begged. My voice was small, my hands stretched out, hoping someone would notice me. Sometimes I got scraps. Most times I got insults. "Go away. Where are your parents? You children are everywhere like flies." Each word hurt more than the hunger. After a while, I stopped asking. I started watching, learning, surviving. I figured out which stalls threw away leftover food. I learned the timing, the patterns. I learned how to move fast before others took it. I learned how to sleep with one eye open. Days turned into months. Months turned into years. The boy who once cried at night slowly disappeared. In his place grew someone harder, quieter, stronger. But deep inside, the pain never left. Every time I saw a child laughing with his father, something inside me twisted. I would look away quickly, pretending it didn't matter. But it did. It always did. One afternoon, when the sun burned hotter than usual, my body finally gave up. I hadn't eaten properly in days. My legs felt weak, my vision blurred, and before I knew it, I collapsed near a small building at the edge of the road. I thought that was the end. But it wasn't. When I opened my eyes, I saw a woman sitting beside me. Her face was calm, her eyes soft, filled with a kind of warmth I had almost forgotten existed. "You're safe," she said gently. I didn't believe her at first. People had never meant safety to me. But she stayed. She gave me water. Then food. Real food. Warm and soft. I ate slowly at first, then faster, as if it might disappear. Tears rolled down my face, but I didn't stop eating. She didn't ask too many questions. She didn't judge. She just helped. Her name was Abani. She lived in a small house near a little school she ran for children who had nowhere else to go. She wasn't wealthy. In fact, she struggled just like everyone else. But she had something rare, a heart that refused to turn away from pain. She took me in. At first, I didn't trust it. I kept expecting her to change, to shout, to push me out like my father did. But she never did. Instead, she gave me something I had lost long ago, patience. She enrolled me in her school. I sat in a classroom for the first time, surrounded by other children. They laughed, they answered questions, they read out loud. I couldn't. I felt stupid, lost, ashamed. Many times I wanted to run away. The streets were harsh, but at least I understood them. But every time I struggled, she would sit beside me in the evening, under a dim light, guiding me slowly. "You are not behind," she would say softly. "You are just starting later than others." Those words stayed with me. So I tried. Then I tried harder. And then, I refused to stop trying. Years passed, and something began to change. The letters started making sense. Words turned into sentences. Books became my escape, my weapon, my future. I studied with a hunger greater than the one that once lived in my stomach. At 15, I became the best student in the school. At 18, I earned a scholarship. The same streets that once watched me beg, now watched me leave. The city was overwhelming at first. Tall buildings, loud traffic, people everywhere. But I carried my past like fuel. Every sleepless night, every painful memory, every moment of rejection, it all pushed me forward. I chose medicine. Not because it was easy, but because I knew what it felt like to be helpless. And I never wanted anyone else to feel that way if I could help it. The journey was long. There were moments I almost gave up. Times when the pressure felt too heavy. But I remembered the boy under the wooden stall, cold and alone. If he survived, I had no excuse to quit. Years later, I stood in a graduation hall, wearing a gown I never imagined I would have. My name was called, and the room filled with applause. For a moment, everything went silent in my mind. I had done it. I had become someone. But even in that moment, a small part of me remained unfinished. So I went back to the village, back to the place where everything began. The road felt shorter this time. The fear was gone. Only memories remained. I stood in front of the same house. The same door. I knocked. Slowly it opened. My father stood there, older now, his face worn by time. His eyes met mine, confused at first. Then I spoke. And everything changed. His expression broke. His body trembled. Tears filled his eyes. He thought I was gone forever. In that moment, I saw something I had never seen before. Not anger, not strength, but regret. I listened as he spoke about the years after I left. About loss, about pain, about the mistake that haunted him every single day. And for the first time, I understood. Not because what he did was right, but because holding on to hate would only chain me to the past. I didn't return as a broken child. I returned as someone who survived. Someone who built himself from nothing. Today, I help children like I once was. Children who sleep on streets, who feel forgotten, who think their story has already ended. I show them it hasn't. Because mine didn't. The night my father threw me out, he thought he was ending my life. But he didn't know. He was starting a story that would one day become stronger than anything he could have imagined.